Hello. Today is Thursday, and today I am going to walk you through my ranch chicken wings and my ranch chicken breast. So stay tuned and I hope you enjoy. All of the recipe ingredient list is in the description, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Bye-bye. I always buy my wings in a family packs like this one here. Right now I'm going to show you how I cut up and store my chicken wings. The first thing that I do is sort my wings by 4s because that's how many I put in each storage bag. So here you can see I'm just sorting through each one. That's 2 sets of 4, 3 sets of 4, and 4 sets of 4. So I need 4 Ziploc bags or storage bags, and I get freezer storage bags, which is what you're going to see here. The next thing is the storage bags. I need 4 bags, so I put down 4 storage bags. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next thing I do is I get a Sharpie and I write on each each bag, and you're gonna see I'm gonna write on each bag that it's chicken wings, the month and the year, so that I'm sure I know when I cut these up, what month and year I cut these wings up and froze them. So these are going to be chicken wings, March 2021. I'm gonna do all 4 bags. It's gonna say the exact same thing. And I try to write as neat as possible because I'm not the only one who goes in the freezer, and I want to make sure everybody can read my handwriting and nobody tries to take my wings. Okay. Next thing I'm going to get is my cutting board and my knife, very sharp butcher knife. My cutting board. And I make a point to always open up all of the storage bags, just so it makes it easier when I go to put the chicken in the bags. So I'm going to take my first set of 4. Okay. Now I have my first set of 4 there and my butcher knife. I'm going to cut off the little extra little part of the wing. I don't use that little part, so I cut that off first of each one of the wings. And if you watch how I'm doing it, I try to do it right at the joint, so all I'm cutting through is the cartilage and not the bone. Cutting through chicken bones is not impossible, but it's can kind of be difficult. You'll see a little bit when I go to cut the wings. I try to stand them up so that I can see where the joint is, and I cut down on the joint. And see here, I've kind of missed the joint, and that's why I'm kind of having to put a little extra pressure, because I did have to cut through the bone in that one. But you'll see it gets a little bit easier as I go because I find that joint, and see that one went no problem. I hit the cartilage and cut right through. And here's the third one, and then the last one. And the reason that I cut these up is at each meal I typically will have 4 wing pieces or 2 wings, but I typically do 4 wing pieces, and I put them in I put 4 wings in a bag because typically I will cook one day 2 meals worth of wings at one time. That's why I put them all in at one time. Then I'm going to do the same thing for every single one of the bags. Now, I have not. I'm doing this now. I'm prepping this early, and I haven't actually eaten wings as of recording this part. I'm just getting them prepped. So that I can do the rest of the recipe, and they're already taken apart. The last set. Now the next thing, right now what I'm doing is washing my hands. You can't see the sink, but I'm washing my hand, washing this chicken off of my hands, washing off my knife. Now I'm washing the cutting board. Now the next thing I'm going to do is close up all of my storage bags. I squeeze out as much air as possible of each one. I get them to lay as flat as possible so that I can just lay them out in the freezer. I do that with my ground meat as well as my chicken wings, chicken breast. I try to make it as thin as possible just to make it easier to store in the freezer. And then once these are all closed up, all the air is out as much as possible, I will put them in the freezer, and that'll be it. Okay, today we're going to work on my ranch wing recipe and my ranch breast recipe. The first recipe that we're going to work on is the wings. Right now I am preheating my toaster oven to air fry at 400 degrees. I'm going to start it for 5 minutes just to get it heated. Now I just hit the function key and changed the settings, so I'm putting it back to air fry 400 for 5 minutes so that it can preheat the toaster oven. Next thing I'm going to do is take my wing pieces out of the bag that I have defrosted and put into the basket. Now, in the previous section when I cut up my wing pieces, I did mention that I typically have 4 wing pieces or 2 wings at a time is 1 serving for me. But since my surgery, it is not quite that. I typically have 1 wing or 2 pieces as 1 serving, and that will show up as in the recipe and the nutritional information that I'll show later. Now I'm taking some sea salt and sprinkling some sea salt onto the wings over the sink to reduce mess. Now I'm going to take my garlic powder and sprinkle the garlic powder onto the wings as well, just to give them some flavor. It adds a little flavor and texture. I just love garlic. I add garlic to almost everything. Now the 5 minutes are about up, and I am going to go ahead and put my wings into the air fryer for about 10 minutes. You'll see me set. It's still on air fry at 400, and I'm going to put them in for 10 minutes for the first go round. That typically gets them mostly done. Now the 10 minutes is up, and I'm going to turn them over. As I turn them over, I'm going to be checking on the level of doneness. Sometimes they're more done than other times. So as I turn them over, I kind of squeeze a little bit. I kind of look at them to see how dark they are, what color they are, to see about how long you're going to cook them for. The second round can go anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes depending on doneness. for these here, I'm gonna put them in for about 7 more minutes because of that. They're not quite done, so like I said, I'm putting them in for about 7 more minutes at still the 400 degrees. Now, after I turn them, I typically set up the sauce. Now I use Country Crock plant butter with olive oil. Has a lot less fat and less cholesterol. I use 1 teaspoon of the plant butter in this for this particular recipe. Now the container that I'm using is a microwave safe storage container, because when those wings come out of the oven, they're going to be extremely hot, and then as the butter melts around them, that's going to be hot. So you need to have a container that is microwave safe. Now I'm going to add in my Hidden Valley Ranch dip mix. I put it in a shaker because I use it on quite a few different recipes. I use it as seasoning. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon for the 8 wing pieces, 4 wings. Now, you don't have to use ranch. You can use whatever seasoning you would like. You can use garlic and Parmesan. You can use hot sauce. You can use any type. If you want to do buffalo sauce, make use some buffalo wings. I would just make sure when you're getting the sauce or getting that it is low fat and low cholesterol. But you can make whatever flavors you would like. Now I'm taking the wings out of the air fryer and putting them into my container. I also always use a clear container, because the way that you're sure that your wings are fully coated in the seasoning and butter is you want to make sure that that butter is fully melted. I'm going to cover up the wings in the container, and I'm going to shake them very aggressively. I'm going to shake it until I can see through the container that that butter is completely melted. And sometimes it can take 2 or 3 minutes. Sometimes it can go pretty fast. Now the top is going to want to pop off, and you might want to vent it every every minute or so, just so that the top doesn't blow off, because you're adding up a lot of pressure with the heat and everything, so you want to do that. Now here is the final wings, and right here are the final wings, and on the screen is the complete ingredient list and the nutritional information for the wings. The next thing that we're going to do is the chicken breast. Now I vary on how I do it. For this particular time, I cut my breast up into small pieces. As you can see there, it's kind of like nugget sized pieces, and I'm using for 4.7 ounces. There is a little bit of liquid in the container, and they still are a little frozen, so it's going to come to about 4 ounces of chicken breast, and it's skinless, boneless chicken breast that I'm going to be using. I'm going to put them in the basket and spread them out evenly. Make sure they're not too close, so that there's good cooking, good airflow for cooking. Now, if you're doing this, you would still want to preheat your air fryer for about 5 minutes at 400 degrees, so that the air fryer is nice and hot when you put these in. Now I'm going to just sprinkle the chicken breast with some of my ranch seasoning, just to give it a little added flavor. For my chicken breast, I don't use any salt or anything else. I just use the ranch seasoning before I cook, and then after I cook, I'm going to show you how I do the sauce. It's very similar to the way that I do the wings. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my breast pieces in the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 7 minutes on the first side, and then the second side, we'll see in just a minute, it can vary between about 4 to 7 minutes on the second side, depending on the level of doneness. Now I'm going to turn these over again. I'm not going to add any more seasoning to them. I'm just going to leave them the way they are, but I am turning them over, and I'm testing the doneness of them to feel about how solid they are, to see how done they are. If they're still real soft, then you're going to need to put them in for at least another 7 minutes. But depending on how squishy they are, or how raw they are, or how done they are, it is how long you're going to put them in. I'm going to put these in for about 5 more minutes on this side. So now I'm setting up the sauce just like I did with the wings. I'm using the same plant butter. It's Country Crock plant butter with olive oil. I'm using a half a teaspoon of this. I'm using a half a teaspoon of this because it's not quite as much meat as with the wings. It's just 4 ounces of meat. It's going to be about 3 ounces after it's cooked. Before weight is different than after weight, because typically meat will shrink a bit after it's cooked. So I'm using a half a teaspoon of butter here, and then I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of the seasoning, the ranch seasoning, because I already did put some seasoning beforehand. Now I'm going to put 1 teaspoon in with the butter just to give it a nice coating and to give it that flavor. These ranch mix that I use has no calories and has very little sodium in it. That's one thing that you need to check on, is the sodium levels, because sometimes if you get it off brand, the sodium levels can be a bit higher. Now I'm going to take the breast pieces out, put them in the bowl like before. Now this bowl is smaller than the one I used for the wings, but it's the same brand, it's the same thickness as with the other one, so that I know it's microwave safe and it's not going to damage the container when I put the meat in and when I shake it up. Again, when you go to shake it, you want to vent it every like minute or so. Although with this amount you probably won't have to, because you're not going to have to shake it quite as long. You don't have as much butter and the smaller pieces, so it's not going to take as long for it to melt. Once that butter is nice and melted, then you're gonna take it out. You're gonna put it on your plate so you can eat. And I'll be putting on the screen the recipe list and the nutritional information. If you want to pause the screen at this point, or at the point with the wings to write down the recipe, it'll also be in the description box, and the nutritional information is also right there. So I hope you enjoy these recipes, and I will be back on Sunday with my update video. So I hope that you have a nice week, and stay safe and be kind. Have a good day. Oh, also make sure and leave a like.